Election day is Tuesday, and most of the attention is on a few very close races in the Senate. One person watching closely is radio host and political commentator Pete Dominick. Pete, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Lynn.
Well, let's talk about these Senate races. Republicans needing to pick up 6 seats in the Senate to win a majority. First, voter turnout, we always know, is huge in this case. And midterm elections, we always see the voter turnout being a lot lower than in presidential races. So what do you think the chances are that that's going to happen?
Well, I think that it looks like the Republicans are definitely going to take over the Senate. There's like a 68% chance, according to all the nerds who crunch these numbers. The guy who's got the most respect, of course, Nate Silver at 538. So I think it looks likely that Republicans will take over the Senate. And I think it's worth noting that now Republicans will have the House and the Senate, but there's this pesky filibuster rule in the Senate. So they still won't be able to get legislation through to the president for him to have to veto. So even though they have both houses of Congress, they won't necessarily get anything done. More gridlock, Lynn. Happy times.
Yeah, exactly. More infighting as well. Speaking of Mitch McConnell, you know, we're talking about Kentucky because there's a real dogfight there. He is up against Allison Lundgren Grimes. If he wins and GOP takes control of the Senate, as you're predicting they would, he could be a majority leader. But dealing with a lot of infighting, that's been sort of on both sides of the aisle, a big issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's interesting to note, and I looked this up just before, is that there's a small chance. It looks like he's going to win, but there's still a very good chance that Allison Lundgren Grimes could win there. And by the way, the Clintons have been visiting Kentucky plenty because Hillary Clinton would much rather have to work with Allison Lundgren Grimes than Mitch McConnell if he were the majority leader. But if he didn't win, guess who would be the majority leader in the Senate? One, most likely, John Cornyn of Texas. I think that's a fun fact. But it's going to be a close race. The Democratic machine apparently has abandoned Allison Lundgren Grimes a couple days ago, but still a lot of money being spent on $30 million spent in this election by McConnell. Grimes will have spent $20 million, but the outside groups have spent $30 million in this Kentucky race. The money is ridiculous in Kentucky.
The money is also ridiculous in North Carolina. $100 million in this race. We have Kay Hagan. She is the incumbent Democrat versus conservative legislator Tom Tillis in this case. Most expensive midterm election ever. I mean, you think that's going to sit well with voters?
I mean, unfortunately, I don't think voters pay enough attention to how much money is being spent. If they did, then hopefully it wouldn't sit well with voters. It's really an interesting race in North Carolina. But as you said, more money being spent in North Carolina than any Senate election ever. Over $100 million. More than 2/3 of that money, by the way, is provided by outside groups that outside North Carolina. And while Senate interests are national interests, these should be North Carolinian interests. In my opinion, I am shoulding there, Lynn. I'm saying should.
Should, exactly. So let's talk about Georgia. You know, Pete, no Democrat has won a statewide election in Georgia for more than a decade. Yet we've seen some new polling showing Michelle Nunn with a slight lead over David Perdue. What do you think is being most effective in her campaigning?
Black folks. Black folks matter. It's interesting to see in rural white areas in Georgia where older white folks are going, how is this even a close race? Because they know how Georgia generally goes. But it's black folks in cities like Atlanta that she is definitely trying to pay as much attention to and spend a lot of time to and get them out to vote early and get those church groups out to vote. That is really, I think, the game changer and with what's happening in Georgia.
But, you know, there's been some interesting advertising here in Georgia, campaign advertising of some of the African-American community coming out and saying that that party is using their vote, so to speak. What do you make of some of these campaign strategies there by the right?
Here's what I make of campaign ads, and you guys are getting probably hammered with them down there in Georgia, Lynn. But don't watch them. Don't listen to them. Don't watch them. Don't pay attention to them. It doesn't matter whose ad it is, Democrat, Republican, or third party. They are all about money. They're all focus group. They're all about affecting you. Don't pay attention to them. Look the facts up on your own.
There you go. Pete Dominick, we so appreciate it. Thanks for watching the races so closely. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.